the rest of the story. When they first sang in Liverpool, England, now don't get ahead of me. When they first sang in Liverpool, England, these four long-haired, vibrant, somewhat irreverent youngsters were a smash hit. Then again, the youth of working-class Liverpool could relate to such irreverence. In London, however, it was another story. In the cultured ears of the sophisticated city, that music was noise and the message was madness. And yet, as their songs struck more sour notes among the staid, the establishment, the out-of-it generation, their fame only increased. New York City, in fact, all of America, they took by storm. For these were the Fabulous Four, who were to revolutionize popular music, to alter its texture and broaden its horizons, surely forever after. Originally, this dynamic group was comprised of five, perhaps you didn't know, and there's more you didn't know. For four mop-topped pop singers to succeed in England was one thing. To capture the collective heart of a culturally diverse America, that was something else. They arrived on the pop music scene during an uneasy lull between the folk music era and the infamous war that was to shake this nation to its core. They'd been around for some time, small audiences away from the limelight. Slowly a new image was evolving, the distinctive facade under which they would make it big. And yet even that image was to change. Their already long establishment-taunting hair was to grow even longer. Originally clean-shaven, three of the four were eventually to grow beards. A symbol of naturalness and simplicity, they called it, and yet somehow it seemed they were consciously attempting to stay one step ahead of their myriad imitators, the innumerable pop groups seeking similar success. In fact, no immediately subsequent ensemble ever managed to eclipse them, either in originality or in popularity. If another group was musically espousing some anti-establishment cause, chances were the Fabulous Four had already beaten them to it. Friends in the music business often warned them to avoid controversial songs, and yet the warnings seemed to inspire them to further controversy. Having outlived their initial criticism, they would continue to set trends including anti-war, racial equality, women's rights, prison reform, vegetarianism, even mysticism. Though all four contributed to their musical entity, John was more or less the group's spiritual leader. He was the daring one, the ambitious one. Even as a boy, John had difficulty enduring a slow song. After years of dominating the popular music scene, at last, amid the protests of their multitudinous admirers, the Fabulous Four broke up. They disbanded, going their separate ways. No one of them was ever able to approach the acclaim bestowed upon the original group. Now, how might we retrospectively analyze their appeal? For one, their true strength lay in ballads rather than bombast. And they were an intrinsic group. They composed the songs they performed. Of course, personal magnetism, charisma, compromises the least definable aspect of their success. Certainly, while they were together, nobody could imagine that one day they'd be replaced, and yet they were replaced. Many times over, they were replaced. You see, the singing group that revolutionized popular music forever after. The long-haired, vibrant, somewhat irreverent Fabulous Four were not the Beatles. I said were not the Beatles. They were the Hutchinson family's Quartet, our very first protest singers, who performed their controversial songs and espoused their radical politics and won the hearts of our nation's youth during the 2 decades before our Civil War. And now you know the rest of the story.